Alrighty, you guys, so it's time for season 10 of Love is Blind. We're in week 1, and I've already seen something in week 1 that I've never seen before. A human undo button. And you know what I mean? Like, have you ever seen anybody do something and then hit Command Z? Yeah, that was nerdy of me. Okay, anyway, let's just get into my recap and review of episodes 1 through 6 of Love is Blind season 10 in Ohio. Go Hurricanes. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real recap and review for Love is Blind Season 10 in Ohio. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We have been waiting for Season 10 of Love is Blind. And by we, I maybe mean me. But I'm so excited. Thank you to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch these early for review. Now, here's the thing about Season 10, y'all. I don't have a lot of spoiler-free thoughts because there are a lot of spoiler-filled things that happen that I want to get into. But hey, if you are here for the first time and you don't want to get spoiled, go ahead and just subscribe to the channel. And hey, if you're returning, do the same if you haven't already. Hit the bell notifications so you don't miss out. And get loud in the comments below and let me know what you think about week 1 because there were some crazy things. And hey, like this video too so other Love is Blind fans can see it, you guys. I am going to give you some spoiler-free thoughts though because again, you know, not a lot of things are too brand new. I mean, some things are part of the course for week 1. The pod moments are relatively long. I'll be honest, they were dragging it at some points. Episodes 2 and 3 felt very weak to me. Episode 1 was good, and episodes 5 and 6 were really good. So you get a little bit of a lull in between. Just stick with it though, because it does get better. I just really wish it was a stronger start. And I'm confused. Guys, you remember in the Meet the Cast video, I did my reaction to it. We saw a contestant and she was like my favorite from the jump. Her name is Dynasty. She's mentioned like twice by Tyler, I believe. And we don't really see her. So what happened? What happened, Love is Blind producers? But yeah, this is a fun week 1 once you get through the very boring pod moments. And I will tell you, there is a pot that is being brewed by a certain contestant, Breezy, that I am very, very shocked we're already getting into. Like, this is, after the honeymoon phase, some of these couples ain't gonna last. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. So, alrighty. I really, really, really want to give you my commentary for the spoiler-filled portion of this video. So, can I get into it? Can I do it? Okay, I'm gonna get there. So this is your spoiler warning, you guys. Again, if you haven't watched week 1 yet, save this to your watch later list. Come back and let me know what you think of who got engaged and what you think of the honeymoon phase. And for one couple, they weren't even in Mexico. Okay. Alrighty, y'all. So let's get into all of my thoughts and hop into the pods. We're in the men's and the women's living quarters, you guys. And of course, our hosts are back, Vanessa and Nick Lachey. And I have one comment for them. Just one. Vanessa Lachey, thank God you did not have a wardrobe malfunction moment because, girl, what is that? That is like, that's dangerous. I'm sure Nick Lachey didn't care, but like I was thinking like, please just don't make any sudden movements. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Now listen, this is definitely something that I'm going to be paying close attention to because in season 9, remember, Vanessa and Nick Lachey didn't have much screen time, and in season 10, it's part of the course. They're also not having much screen time. I'm not that mad at it. I won't lie to you. So we get introduced to all of our contestants, and in episode 1, they then get sent into the pods, and I was getting so tired of this Ohio chant. And it's not because I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, but seriously, they do the O-H-I-O. Lame. We beat you guys in our bowl game. But anyway, lame. Alrighty, moving on, guys. We're getting introduced now to some of our contestants, one of them being Kevan. Oh, Kevan. Oh, boy. Kevan with an A, by the way. Boy, he's just, man, what a contestant. He said that he meets girls at Target, and honestly, that should have been the very first and only red flag. We don't, no, shopping at Target, no, voluntarily? No. Unless y'all got a gift card and you're like robbing the bank, do it. Not robbing it literally, but you know, using a gift card's like their money against them. But still, let's keep going with my notes here. Amber, another contestant that we talked about last week, well, she said she has a 7-year-old daughter. And this is different for contestants that are either single fathers or single mothers. She came off with that right off the rip. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And I think she said it to Jordan or to another contestant, but none of the guys seemed to care, which is fine, honestly. Some of them might, some might not. But usually this is like something the producers tell the contestants to hold on to so they can make a surprise reveal when they get back home, or something like that. We all remember Jordan and Sparkle Megan. Yes. Alrighty. So next up is Victor. He's awesome, dude. Victor's a vibe in the pods, okay? That man said he's a professor, and I guessed it. I was like, wait a second. He would be like really good as like an academia type. And yeah, he is. So he's pretty cool. And the dude's got like a nice voice, right? So for me, this is giving like Netflix miniseries where a professor goes on a reality show to find love and then doesn't think it'll happen, but then I find my person. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes, actually. Victor and Christine hit it off pretty early here, and Vic asked Christine if she's a Christian, and she said 100%. And I'm like, okay, I'm rocking with it. You know, I'm always very cautiously optimistic when contestants say they're 100% Christian, because I always say, okay, all right, now back that up. You know what I mean? Because, you know, faith without works is dead. So let's go ahead and let's watch these two together. But, you know, I'm like, dang, that's pretty cool. I think later on they pray together. So I'm like, yeah, that's really dope. Then we've got Jess and Chris hitting it off early, and Jess tells Chris straight up, hey, I'm divorced. You know, I'm noticing a trend here where contestants, either men or the women, they're just right off the bat, hey, I got a kid, I'm divorced, I ran over somebody with my car in Walmart last week. Like, you know, little things like that, just where they're saying it. No prompt, just letting it just kind of air out there. And I guess that's good for the other contestant on the other side of the wall. They got to know everything too, don't they? And then we've got Connor and Bree. Well, Connor and Bree find out that Mr. Brightside is the one thing they're clicking together with early on. Yes, the song by The Killers. It's a great song, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I guess the Killers play a big part of both of their lives. And I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing here. They're trying to lay that foundation between Connor and Bree, aren't they? And then we've got Emma, who's overcome a lot, and her story is very sweet and heartfelt. She had birthmarks all over her body at a young age and needed, I think she said, like more than a handful of surgeries before the age of 7 or 16, but very, very young, guys. And because they were afraid of it turning into skin cancer, I think. So she's got a good story, and she's one of the younger contestants this season on Love is Blind. Most of them are averaging like 31, 32 years old. Emma's 29, if I'm not mistaken. But something that she reveals that is going to play a huge part later on is the fact that she's not 100% in on the idea that she wants kids. And she has a good reason for it, but Emma said she's adopted, and she is Chinese. So she said when she was adopted by her white parents, she didn't really know her biological parents. So if they had any sort of diseases or family history, she doesn't know it yet. So she doesn't want to pass that down unknowingly to one of her kids. And I'm like, you know what? That's super thoughtful. Alrighty, you guys. So now we're getting back to Kevan and Kia, not Kea, but Kia. Kia ends up bringing up she loves movies, and she thought Love and Basketball was overrated. I think it was with Kevan. And Kevan had said he loved Interstellar. Great choice, but also Love and Basketball overrated? Huh. She said it's the worst movie she ever watched, actually. And I'm like, And then they bounce to Kevan and Tyler, and I see what they're doing here with this soon-to-be love triangle. Tyler and Kevan have a very strong connection early in the pods, but if I had $1 for every time Kevan was between Kia and Tyler, I'd probably have like $20. It's insane. Then we get introduced to Ashley, and she says that her father tells her, this is in a testimonial interview, that she's a bad picker of men. Oops. All right, I guess we need to make a note of that one, because if Ashley and her family, or I should say Ashley's family, believes that Ashley's a bad picker of men, is she going to be a bad picker of men in the pods? We shall see. Then we're back to Mike and Emma, and Mike and Emma have a very early connection in the pods, and they start talking about children. Emma said she's not sold on the idea, and Mike said here, well, that would be a tough hurdle for me to overcome if we were to get engaged and then married, because I want some babies. And Emma's like, I don't know. And she has her reasons, but Mike is like, dang, how are we gonna overcome this? And then when they leave the pods for that date, Emma says, bye, buddy. Oof. And you get a bye, buddy? You might be friend zoned. And at this point in episode 1, they start diving into Emma's past trauma. And I do believe that she's valid in the way she's feeling. Of course. I just think that it's going to hold her back a bit in the experiment. So then we're back to my favorite couple this season so far, Victor and Christine. And they have this gourmet, like 2 or 3 course meal on their little dining tables or whatever in the pods. And let me tell y'all something. This tiramisu That slice is huge. Huge. It's insane. Like, what is that? They don't really eat it either. Although I won't lie. Victor ate his steak and Christine did not. I mean, what do they do with all the extra food on this show? I don't know. But they begin talking about their past traumatic experiences, and eventually Victor reveals that he wrote a really nice letter for Christine. He reads it to her, and I immediately wrote down in my notes, and I quote myself, "Why do I feel like they're going to be the first engaged couple in the pods?" I was correct sooner than I thought. But before we get there, let's check in with another contestant, Steven, who is trying to get Emma to say, "Hey, don't you want to adopt kids?" And Emma's like, "This is icky because you're trying to force me into a corner here." So Steven's trying to get Emma to say what he wants, but Emma's not budging. He's also trying to finish her sentences. And I don't love that. It's annoying me because every time she either just plays along or he's wrong. So yeah, Emma and Steven, I'm going to be honest, just are not clicking for me, but they're really trying to force it. They really are. And it's at this point where I feel like their pod moments were being dragged out. And then Steven brings up his virginity story and asks Emma for hers. What the heck, bro? It's giving weird, bro. I wanted this to end so quickly, you guys. And as Emma's trying to explain, I guess, her stories to Steven, Steven's making this hand gesture like, "Come on, spit it out" type of deal. I don't like that. Steven, I don't know if I like you. But he's really for the streets, and I just don't think that they're made for one another. So Emma breaks it off with Steven, and I'm very okay with that. Alrighty, so remember I said Victor and Christine, they might get engaged? Here it comes, y'all. Our first proposal moment of week 1 for Love is Blind. We have Victor and Christine. Christine shares a very nice prayer with Victor, and it was really sweet, honestly. And I knew Victor was in the moment, and he was consecrating that moment because he was closing his eyes. There you go. And I kind of wish that we had more moments with them outside of this very quick lead up and montage towards their proposal. I do wish we had more time with them, and I don't know why they're sort of distancing themselves, or I should say the producers are distancing themselves from this couple. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But she says yes, and Victor and Christine are super happy, so they're the first couple to get engaged, y'all. But when Victor goes back into the men's quarters, I'm sorry, they were not hyped enough for my guy. Seriously, what's up with the muted approach? Like, "I'm engaged," or "She said yes," and the guys are like, "Oh, yeah, great, all right, back to eating sandwiches." Come on. And episode 1 ends with a very crazy cliffhanger. Elisa gets sent out of the pods due to some sort of emergency. Now, remember in my Meet the Cast reaction, I saw Elisa and I thought like, is she from Ohio? She seems like she's from South Florida and then transplanted to Ohio. But Elisa had to leave, and it's crazy. It's chaotic. So now let's get into episode 2, and we find out why Elisa had to leave. She apparently thought the bottle she was putting into her eyes were eye drops, and it ended up being nail glue. Nail glue? Thank God she's okay, first and foremost. But it really reminded me of The Pit Season 2, if y'all are up on that show. And if you're not, you need to be. But it's like this girl comes in, a young girl, and she glued her eyelids shut, and she wanted one of the doctors, a young doctor, to come and take care of her. And I'm like, dang, this is crazy. Now, before we get into the first reveal moment with Victor and Christine, I do want to mention one thing. The music this season so far has been very good. They finally found budget for their licensing when it comes to songs. I mean, we're hearing Ed Sheeran, U2, It's a Beautiful Day. You know that song? And then they had Rascal Flatts. And I'm like, wow, they're covering their bases here. I kind of, you know what? I wanted to hear a little bit more R&B. Maybe we'll get that later. So it's time for our first reveal moment. And guys, Victor and Christine, oh my gosh, they were melting my heart. This was such a genuine, sweet reveal. They were taking time with one another. It was just so cute, the kissing. And then Christine said, "God is good, y'all." All the time. Okay, God is good. Yeah, y'all better said all the time, you know? Yeah, so she's in love. I'll be honest with you guys. Alrighty, so back into the pods. We've got our first reveal moment in the books, but we're hearing a lot about Emma's story again. She is bringing this up with the men she's dating in the pods, but it does feel like Netflix is airing a lot of these moments, and we're hearing a lot about her story. It was just, for me, a moment that signaled, oh, we're going to be seeing this come back into play if Emma makes it out of the pods. So she's between Mike and Connor, but Emma says Connor is who her gut is saying she'll end up with. Will it happen? No. But alrighty, we'll get back to them. Let's move on to Amber. Amber is an interesting character this season of Love is Blind. Amber apparently said, I haven't introduced my boyfriend of 3 years in the past to my daughter. That's very odd and telling. Her ex-boyfriend must have been not nice. But Jordan reveals something about his deal breaker before coming onto the show. He told producers the one thing would be if a woman had kids prior to getting into the pods. And guess who he's dating? Amber, who has a child. Whoops. And then we get more and more moments between Amber and Jordan, but I'm going to be honest, it does nothing for me. I'm sorry, I was beginning to get bored out of my mind with these two, and it really is episodes 2 and 3. To be honest, that were a little lackluster. 4 is fine, but like I said, 5 and 6 are the best. So yeah, this is the start of that very weird downward trend for this week. But hey, let's check in on Kevan and Kia because he reveals that he has stronger feelings for Tyler. But he continues to entertain Kia and he's having a conversation. And now I'm starting to see that he's wavering back and forth, like the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking here, okay, Kevan, this is a problem. But hey, let's go from mess to romance because we've got another proposal moment on the way between Amber and Jordan. So Jordan gets down on one knee and Amber says yes. But I was so out of the episode by this point that I'm thinking it still did nothing for me. And I'm a softie, y'all, but I was just not feeling it. So I guess the producers heard me and they went right back to Kevan and Tyler and Kia. Oof, this love triangle is crazy. But Kevan needs to figure it out because is he team Tyler or is he team Kia? I just don't think he ever gets there. And I'm honestly just so over Kevan by this point because he keeps saying this is so hard. But bro, the indecisiveness is frustrating. You're telling Tyler, I'm with you. I have stronger feelings for you. But Kia, I don't know. I guess he's not a player. He just crushes a lot. I don't know, man, but it's frustrating. And then before we get to the end of the episode, Tyler says, hey, you know what? Forget it. She's taking a stand. And she says, I'm choosing myself. So Kevan is trying to compliment her, but Tyler's already 2 feet out the door at this point. So she stops him and says, listen, I can't do another speech from you about how great I am. I'm choosing me. Go and take your indecisiveness somewhere else. And Tyler leaves. And at this point, I'm like, good for you, Tyler. And then the episode ends. So now it's time for episode 3, and we get our second reveal moment between Amber and Jordan. And it feels awkward, y'all. Was I the only one that thought this was awkward? I mean, I don't know. Not in a weird way, but it was just awkward cutesy. I heard one of the students on campus say that. But yeah, I'll be honest. I think they're just socially awkward, but they seem like they're fine together. Right? What is the consensus on them? Okay, so now we're at the point in the pods where we finally get introduced to some fresh faces like Devonta and Brittany. And as they're sitting down together, Devonta reveals to Brittany, hey, production pulled me for a little bit outside of the pods to tell me that my grandfather passed away. And I'm praying for him and his family because I know that's not something easy. You can't just hear that and continue with the experiment. But he does. And Brittany says, hey, if you need to take your time, do it. But Devonta said, I'm good. So we go from a very somber moment to the mess that is Kevan, Tyler, and Kia. In the women's quarters, Tyler's like, I'm done. I'm out of here. She leaves the experiment. At least I thought. But as Tyler's in the women's quarters, Kia says in a testimonial, if I'm not mistaken, that she doesn't want Tyler to play the victim game with how she's reacting to being told no by Kevan. And in a way, I get it. It's an experiment. It's a reality show, right? You're supposed to date multiple people in the pods. And Kia has kind of a point, right? Kevin's going to assess his options. But I just don't think Kevan is ready. So in a testimonial interview, Tyler says, I'm gone, but the producers clocked her because they said, isn't this what you've done in the past? Leave? And she says, yes. And I'm like, dang, producers. Dang, why are you going to drag her like that? Man. So Tyler ends up coming back into the women's quarters and says, redo, and y'all just know that's going to be played at the reunion. Redo. But again, I've never seen a human undo button before in my life, but it happened. So Tyler gets back into the pods with Kevan, and he apologizes for not articulating his feelings better. And Tyler says, I'm sorry for slamming the door on you. Girl, you should have slammed that door and turned the deadbolt lock and just never came back. And Tyler explains to Kevan, hey, I need to be a girlfriend before becoming a fiancé. And I have one question. If you needed to be a girlfriend before a fiancé, why come on to Love is Blind? Y'all know that's not how that happens. That sounds like dating in the real world, so why not just do that? And then after Tyler gets back into the women's quarters, Kia and Tyler hug it out. So all of that drama for nothing. And then I thought, okay, if this is a nice change of pace, we're in for a treat for this next segment. Not really, because it got boring again. Jessica and Chris are on their pod date, and it was very uneventful. It's like I was watching paint dry. It did, again, nothing for me. And I feel like I've been saying that a lot this week so far, that their pod date, they were doing a lot of this, and there was nothing in terms of like emotionality I connected with. There was no drama. There was nothing in the mix that really had my full attention, but I still watched it for y'all because, I love you guys and I appreciate you coming to me for your recaps. But thankfully, we do get a proposal moment between Ashley and Alex. Alex gets down on one knee and says, do you want to score goals with me for the rest of my life? And Ashley says, yes. And they are engaged. So we go from one surefire decision to a contestant who just doesn't know what the heck he wants to do. Connor is apparently stuck between Bree, or Breezy, and Emma. So Breezy and Emma are the two that he has at the top of his list, but he doesn't know what he wants to do. And that'll be very important soon. But I do think that the producers were trying to keep everyone entertained because we get a reveal moment literally right afterwards. Between Ashley and Alex, of course. So they meet, and Alex keeps saying, feels like home, doesn't it? Yep, feels like home. Like, yeah, we get it, bro. You're really trying to make her feel very comfortable, but it's like kind of forced in a way. And then they start kissing, and then they start kind of all over each other. And then he says, don't look at me like that. You know what you're doing, those eyes. And I'm like, get a room. Stop it. What's happening? So the physical attraction is clearly there for those two. Alrighty, well, let's check in on Bree, and she's telling Chris something that surprises him. Kidding, it actually doesn't surprise him at all. Breezy tells Chris, hey, I'm focusing on a stronger connection, and Chris said, hallelujah. Okay, because I actually have a stronger connection too. I'm all in on Jessica. And Bree is like, oh, that's so sweet. I love her for you. And they split. Seems amicable, right? Until you get to Mexico and you realize that Bree is harboring some feelings still. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Next note. But here's the thing. There's now a triangle between Connor, Bree, and Emma. Emma reveals she's all in on Connor, but here's the thing. Connor tells her, I haven't decided anything yet. And now Emma's thinking, shoot, did I just waste all my time here? So now let's get into episode 4, you guys. We're almost out of the pods. Don't worry. But we get a moment with Connor and Emma. Connor completely calls it off with Emma, and that leaves Emma shocked because remember, Emma said Connor is who in her gut she felt she would end up with, and that did not happen. Dang. But don't worry, you guys. We go from messy to sweet yet again with another proposal moment, guys. I think this is like proposal number 3 or 4 by this point, and that is Jessica and Chris. So, of course, Jessica says yes, and Chris is so over the moon, and they're head over heels for each other, and they haven't even seen each other yet. Kind of sweet. Alrighty, so let's check in again on Emma. Well, Mike apparently says, I've been waiting all day for you, girl. And, how do we tell Mike? She was not waiting for you. You were number 2. Mike said, Emma, you're my number 1, and you have been this entire time. And I felt bad for Mike because you can tell by body language that Emma's like, shoot, you weren't my number 1 this whole time either. Oh, no. But for Connor and Breezy, it's oh yes, because they are the next couple to get engaged. Listen, the engagements are coming out like crazy. They're rattling them off early in episode 4. But Breezy says yes, Connor's very happy, and hey, happy for them. I don't know how how to feel about them. But you know what I'm very curious about is Kevan, Kia, and Tyler. Well, they're gifting each other stuff in the pods, and Kia gifts Kevan a watch, and the meaning behind it was cute. Kind of like a reminder of like, sort of just like to keep track of like time in the past and the present and the future type of deal. I don't know. I think that's what she meant. But I know Kevan was crying because those eyes were very glossy, and I do not think he's allergic to dust. Maybe I could be wrong. But Kevan, his gift to Kia was a mini basketball because Kia used to work for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I thought that was pretty sweet. Go Heat. But, you know, yeah, it's sweet until you figure out what happens at the end between them. So at this point, I thought Kevan was all in on Kia. He said, man, I feel like I should let you win, Kia. And Kia's like, oh, okay, keep going. And Kevan said, man, I should let you win. I should let everybody win. And Kia said, excuse me? I clocked that. What did you just say? And Kevan said, yeah, I said Kia should win. Everybody should win. I'm sorry, bro. I'm so sorry, Kevan. You are too indecisive for me, man. Just leave the experiment, please. So their pod date ends and they get back in the women's quarters, and Kia reveals to everybody that, hey, I got a gift from Kevan. And Tyler did not like that. I just know she was ready to commit a flagrant 2 foul right then and there. Oh my gosh, that would have been, oh boy. But Tyler and Kia, I guess they're not necessarily mad at each other, but more so mad at Kevan. So Tyler gets in the pods with Kevan and says, I need you to make a decision today. Are you going to date me exclusively or not? And Kevin's like, oh, I'm crumbling under pressure here. I can't handle 2 queens at once. I choose you. Nah, I mean, I just feel like at this point he's not serious. So Tyler's very, very happy. But Emma and Christine are spilling some tea to Tyler back in the women's quarters, saying, hey, well, he made Kia feel good too on their date. So Tyler said, Are you kidding me? She gets back in the pot to tell Kevan, excuse me, it doesn't make sense to me that you would make Kia feel good after you just told me you're all in on me. What's going on? But Kevan at this point is backtracking, saying he doesn't want the feelings he has with Kia to leave. Just, what are we doing, Kevan? What are we doing? Recapping this made me mad all over again. My gosh. Just Tyler needs to leave this man. Know your worth. You shouldn't have hit the redo button the first time. So Kevan is really trying to salvage things with Tyler and says, you're the person I want to be with. And she said, prove it. And he said, all right, I'll figure out how to prove it. Man, this man is quaking in his space boots. My goodness. Alrighty, so we're going from the very childlike drama there to a proposal moment with Brittany and Devonta. We barely get moments with them, but they're happy. Great. So she says yes. And yep. That's nice. Okay, now to a reveal moment with Jessica and Chris. They meet each other, and Jessica's awestruck. They're both telling each other, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful. Their kiss, it's cute. You know what I mean? I kind of like them. They might be my second favorite couple. My first is Victor and Christine, but this is cool. Alrighty, so let's get back to Emma and Mike, because remember, we're not so sure if they're together or not. But on their pod date, I guess they go together now, because Emma said, shoot, I lost out on my number one. I want to stay around. Kidding. Maybe she does have feelings for Mike. But Mike said, all right, we're together. But the one thing that's holding me back is the fact that you still don't want kids, or you're unsure. We'll get there. Maybe? Alrighty, so let's not forget about Breezy and Connor, because we got a reveal moment to talk about with them too. They seem really playful together, and I'm not saying that because Breezy is an athlete or anything, but it is nice, you know? I mean, he does seem a little insecure about his appearance, and I made a note here. I said, insecurity already, huh? And then we end episode 4 with, who else? Kevan. He goes in the pods and he's expecting to see Tyler, and Tyler ain't there. Oof. Alrighty, so now it's time for episode 5, you guys. We're almost out of the pods completely, but Kevan is saying wow so many times by himself. He's like, wow, oh, no one's there, wow. What did you expect, bro? She literally left you the first time, came back, you committed to her, and then you decommitted. You seem like all the athletes that don't know which college they want to go to. You're going to commit and then decommit. Come on, bro. So this time, Tyler's leaving the experiment with no undo button in sight. All I know is, y'all, this pod reunion is about to be messy when they get back to Ohio. Woo! But hey, let's get into something kind of sweet. We have a reveal moment with Devonta and Brittany. Just a note, you guys. I'm very glad that all the gentlemen here did not forget to get down on one knee and propose in person to their significant other. You know why? Because last season, remember, a lot of these guys either forgot or they needed a reminder. I don't like that. Okay? But yes, Devonta gets down, says, hey, will you marry me? She says yes again. But Brittany said in a testimonial that Devonta is shorter than she anticipated. And he's, and I quote here, sticky. But what does that mean? She said, hey, Devonta's not my type, but she doesn't care. We'll see if this holds true after the honeymoon vacation. And then Devonta reveals, hey, I've never actually dated a woman of color before. And bro, you are missing out. Alrighty, guys, let's get into a proposal moment between Mike and Emma. Yes, Mike and Emma decide we're going to go all the way on this thing. And Emma says, absolutely. She says yes. And Mike is no longer, I guess, in doubt. He's very confident at this point. So yeah, I'm very curious though if they'll get through the kids topic though. Alrighty, so now that Tyler's gone, right? Kevan and Kia should be clear-cut choices for each other. Well, I guess Kia threw Kevan a curveball because she says, I'm not falling in love with you, okay? Thank you for the sweet gift. Thank you for the things you said to me, even though you weren't really committing to me. But I'm not the one for you, she said. And she said, I don't even think you're ready for a relationship. Just like, get right, bro. And I'm like, yo, Kia's going in right now on this guy. And Kevan the whole time is taking it. But dude, you were just so indecisive, man. I do think Kia dodged a bullet. Kevan really wasn't ready, but I can't wait for the reunion. Alrighty, so now let's get right into the reveal moment between Mike and Emma. So Mike and Emma, they get together, of course, it's sweet. And then Mike says, hey, I didn't even care about your birthmarks because I was too busy looking at your smile. And I was like, way to reaffirm your girl. And that was a sweet line too. But Emma, I did feel was still struggling with a little bit of insecurity in the moment. Again, not for me to judge, and that's not what I'm doing. So, you know, good on Mike for making her feel comfortable though. Alrighty, so we're officially out of the pods, and Nick and Vanessa Lachey let us know it's honeymoon time. We've got 7 engaged couples this season, you guys. But not all 7 went to Mexico. Ooh, drama. No, 6 of them did. The other couple, Victor and Christine, went to Malibu, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Malibu, California. And I don't know why. Maybe a travel issue. Maybe they weren't comfortable with going to Mexico. Who knows, right? I would love to find that out. But it is going to be odd because there won't be any real couples reunions with everybody until we get back to Ohio. So we're getting some early moments of the couples who made it to Mexico. And Jessica tells Chris, I have some really strong political views, and that's why I stay off watching the news. I'm on social media, but I don't watch local news or anything like national news. If I had to guess, Jessica probably would lean more Democrat, but we're in a day and age where you just don't know, okay? But you better not support that man in the White House. So Alex and Ashley, we check in on them, and Alex is clearly smitten by Ashley. I mean, listen, if all of us had $1 for every time he said, don't throw your eyes around like that, gosh, we'd have $2. Well, in this conversation. They're just really physical. And honestly, speaking of physicality, Amber and Jordan start talking about it. And Amber in her testimonial interview says something so gross where she's like, all the men that I've known or come across, they would do anything. They would even do a certain thing with a chicken sandwich. Listen, the only thing that I'm doing with a chicken sandwich is eating it. Chick-fil-A, love it so much. But still, what are we talking about, Amber? So we end on kind of a fun note, and now it's time for episode 6, the final episode for week 1. And remember, we were just chatting about the physicality between those two couples, Ashley and Alex, and Jordan and Amber. Well, the next morning they revealed that they did things together. They're very open about sex, and it's like kind of uncomfortable as a viewer. And before we get to the couples dinner, Ashley and Alex had a conversation where Alex said David Beckham wasn't even a good footballer. You're joking, right? You see the badge I got on my kit right now? He's a United legend, but also one of the best footballers in history. Okay, literally, bend it like Beckham? Give me a break, mamma mia, this guy. So now it's time for the couples dinner, you guys, and it's Connor's birthday, so they sing happy birthday to him before getting into any mess. All the girls are having a conversation, and Emma is telling the girls that, yeah, I've slept with Mike, and Brittany said, well, me and Devonta, we haven't slept together like that. We're just waiting a little bit, and I thought, okay, Brittany's cool with waiting, until later on she reveals that she would be okay with doing it right now, and I'm like, And then Bree reveals, hey, isn't anyone else feeling weird that no one is having anything but surface level conversations? Bree is apparently hung up on the fact that she's had some real connections in the pods and nobody's having a conversation that is real outside of it. That's definitely something to pay attention to and think about as we get towards the end of this episode. Now, we get a conversation with the dudes, and the guys are being weird. They're all going around in a circle saying one thing they don't like about their partner, their fiance. Connor says, the one thing I don't like about Bree, and I'm reading this word for word, is that she doesn't shut up. But he added another word in there, if you know what I mean. It was a phrase. And I don't like that one bit. Excuse me, sir? That's very weird. When y'all watch this back, if you get married, she's going to be very mad at you. It's just such a nasty thing to say about a woman, let alone a fiancé. Your fiancé? No, it couldn't be me. Mike reveals that, hey, Emma is really unorganized. And I said, ooh, wow, okay. So when we get done with the dinner, Mike and Emma have a conversation back in their hotel room. And he said, hey, the guys and I, we were going around saying one thing we don't like about our partners. And I mentioned, I don't like how unorganized you are. And listen, Emma felt a certain type of way here, but he got ahead of it, because imagine if that comes up later. That's not great. And I'm going to be honest, I wonder if Connor told Bree about his nasty comment. I guess not. But we do get to listen in on a conversation between Bree and Connor tells Bree, I'm a bit thrown off by you saying you wished you had deeper conversations with some of the guys. And Bree's like, why? I mean, I just told these other guys things I've never told anyone before, and I really want to talk to Chris. And Connor's like, wait, so you're telling me if you got pulled aside by Chris, you'd be okay with that? And she said, absolutely, I'd do a part 2. What? So I'm not so certain what's going on with Bree and with Connor, but this is not looking good for those two. And then we get some of those, selfie videos. I almost dropped my phone, but those selfie videos where they're like, hey, day 5 or whatever the case might be. Well, Jess and Chris are by the pool, and Jess has already expressed that she does not like doing physical activity or working out. So she says, yeah, I'm just watching him do the swimming. Like, girl, we know you don't want to work out. You hate to see a dumbbell coming. And then we get to listen in on a conversation with Brittany and Devonta, and Brittany reveals in a testimonial interview that she feels very lonely in the mornings and expresses that, hey, Devonta's disengaged. I think she says this to his face as well. And something is, again, very off here, but I think Devonta is lingering on the fact that, dude, my family is back home grieving over the loss of my grandfather, and I'm in Cabo? I could see it. And finally, we check in on the Mexico dates, because I was wondering when this was going to happen, and everyone's doing extravagant things. Jet skiing, they're on a bike riding a zip line or whatever. And then we check in with Victor and Christine, and they gave them a cornhole date. Mamma mia, a cornhole date? Come on. You didn't have a budget for more than that? So they did them dirty. And I still don't know why they're not in Mexico. But Alex and Ashley end up having a conversation after their date. And Alex says, I'm not worried about anything with you. Ashley expresses the fact that she likes his confidence, but Alex is maybe too confident for Ashley's liking. Because Ashley's like, hey, now I'm starting to get nervous as to why you're not worried, bro. And one more note before the next couple's party. Chris is also celebrating his birthday. Who's next? It reminds me of that meme, the Hip Hop Harry, I think it's called, like the, who's next? Who's next? Go, 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 go. I don't know. That was weird. That's stupid. Okay, let's move on to the couple's pool party, okay? Chris and Bree end up having a conversation. Producers, y'all are so messy for this. Bree is speaking in a way that makes me think she has feelings for Chris, because she keeps talking about how she could see herself doing stuff with him even outside of the pods and outside of Mexico, and back home they want to double date, but also she wants to do things that Chris likes. Ay, this is weird. And she even says something. She says, Sorry, Jess and Connor. Oh no, girl. You are barking up a bad tree. This is not good. And then Bree asks Chris, do you think that me and Connor are working? I don't know, Breezy. Do they call you Breezy because you're a homewrecker? I don't know. Oh, that was dumb. I shouldn't assume these things, right? So at this point, I don't think Bree and Connor are lasting. But Connor tells Bree in a conversation afterwards, yo, my insecurities are really coming out based on your behavior. I wonder if Bree is going to take that to heart. She's just like, the way she's moving is really weird to me. So they go into the pool and they play Never Have I Ever. And eventually we get to a point where Brittany makes a comment about being physical with Devonta and Devonta doesn't reciprocate it. So Brittany leaves the pool and says in a testimonial, I'm just worried the emotional is not going to turn into the physical and what am I doing with my life? And then Alex reveals in a testimonial, hey, Brittany is actually someone I date in the real world. What are these men even doing? What is happening? Why would you say that? Like, why would you even think that? But he has a conversation with Brittany and basically says, yo, you're like my type. Like, you got dark features, this and that. What, why? Why are you saying these things? And then Alex and Brittany have a conversation on the side where they both talk about the fact that they're engaged to partners they wouldn't go for outside of the experiment. So now this conversation's making me feel icky. What is going on? Bree, Chris, Connor, and all of them. And then we got Alex and Ashley and Brittany. It's so weird. Everybody is really moving in a way that makes me as a viewer think, is anybody gonna last this season? So back in the room, we get a conversation between Ashley and Alex. And, well, Ashley asks, hey, were any girls like flirty with you? And he says, nah, but I had a conversation, you know, like with like Brittany and stuff, but nah. Dude, yes. I think Brittany was being a little flirty with Alex. What do y'all think? So this conversation between Ashley and Alex is very awkward, but Alex says, I'm still confident. And Ashley's like, I'm still nervous. And Ashley makes one comment that sort of got glossed over a bit, but she said, at one point I was thinking, does he even have feelings for me? What? Alrighty, so let's move on to the next messy couple, and that's Bree and Connor. And Bree tells Connor, hey, I was happy to have a part 2 conversation with Chris, and I could do a part 3. Are you serious? Bree, just leave Connor at this point. What are you saying? To me, it doesn't feel like Bree's all the way in on Connor. And when they get back to Ohio, they ain't working. And then to end the episode, we have Brittany telling Devonta, I'm not getting enough from you. So now Devonta's pushing back and saying, all right, hold on. I lost my grandfather, and I got a lot of stuff going on, and I like my walks, and I like to read, and I like to be quiet, and I don't like to be touched. I mean, listen, I see it from Devonta's side where he is still experiencing a traumatic event in his life where he's lost his grandfather. And I see it from Brittany's side as well, where she's like, we both decided to go to Mexico. We both decided to get engaged, and we're going to do this out and live it out together. I'm just not getting enough from you. Totally valid. So what the heck is going to happen between those two? Well, I got some predictions for all of our engaged couples this season. Now, week 2, it might change, but let's see what my predictions are for week 1, guys. As of now, I think Connor and Bree will not last once they leave Mexico. They're going to go to Ohio, give them like 2 or 3 days, and that's it. We got Ashley and Alex, and they will not last. I think they'll last all the way up until like a day or 2 before the wedding, but the foundation is not there. They've both already started to sow those seeds of being interested in other people. Well, Alex more than Ashley. And then Brittany and Devonta, once they get back to Ohio, this conversation is going to come up again. And I think Devonta leaves, to be honest. And then we got Mike and Emma. And I don't think that they're going to make it to the altar, but that's because, well, hey, they've got different points of view on kids. And I just don't see with the period of time that they have to operate within that Emma changes her mind. And then we've got Victor and Christine. And they're going to make it to the altar. So will Chris and Jessica, and Jordan and Amber. So I think we're going to have 3 couples at the altar. And the other 4... they're not going to last. But let me know what you guys think below in the comments. Give me your predictions. And by now, if you haven't subscribed for week 2, you better do it because it's going to be fun. Listen, I think week 2 is going to be, episodes 7 to 9. And then week 3 is episodes 10 and 11. And week 4 is episode 12, the finale. And after that's the reunion. So I'm going to be logged in. Subscribe to the channel, y'all. Turn on those bell notifications. I want to see y'all in here early, and I want to talk to you guys about all of this season because, whew, I think it's going to be messier. It's going to get messier in week 2, and I can't wait to chat about it. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real recap and review of week 1 for Love is Blind Season 10, Ohio. Can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for your support. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. I'm so glad it's warming up a little bit here. You know, that I guess that's what happens when you're a Miami Hurricane. You bring the heat. Get it? It's like 2 sports puns in one.